When I said it, I was 10 years old and didn't understand the weight words could carry into the future. When we grow up, I'll marry you. I'd said it with a grin, half laughing, swinging my legs from the edge of the old wooden dock behind her grandparents' house. The lake smelled like summer and algae, and the sky was too big for promises to feel permanent. She didn't laugh. She stopped skipping stones, turned to look at me, and for a moment I thought I'd said something wrong. Then she smiled, not wide, not teasing, but soft, like she was holding something fragile. "I hope you'll keep that promise," she said. Something settled in my chest that day. I didn't have words for it. I just nodded, suddenly serious, like I'd been entrusted with something important. We grew up together in quiet, overlapping ways. Same school, same neighborhood, different houses, different lives, but always crossing paths. Birthdays, scraped knees, shared lunches, long walks home. She was the person who knew my silences before I knew how to explain them. I was the one who carried her backpack when it got too heavy and waited when she tied her shoes too slowly. People assumed we'd end up together. Kids teased. Teachers smiled knowingly. We rolled our eyes and pretended not to hear, but there was always that promise sitting between us, unspoken, untouched, but never forgotten. As we got older, the world grew louder. High school brought distance without intention. Different friend groups, different dreams forming. She loved art and quiet places. I chased noise and approval, thinking movement meant progress. We still talked late nights sometimes, leaning against opposite sides of the same fence, but there were gaps where there hadn't been before. One night, sitting on the hood of my car, she asked, "Do you still remember what you said when we were kids?" I laughed it off. "You mean the marriage thing?" She nodded. "We were 10, I said. "That doesn't count." She looked down at her hands. "I know," she said. "I just wondered." I didn't ask what she wondered. I should have. College pulled us in different directions, different cities, different lives. We promised to stay in touch, and for a while we did messages, calls, long emails that tried to compress whole months into paragraphs. Then life did what it always does. It crowded things out. She dated someone serious. I heard about it through mutual friends. I pretended not to care. I dated people too, but none of them ever felt like home. They felt like chapters I was passing through, not a story I was meant to stay in. Years went by. Then one winter evening, I saw her again. She was standing outside a cafe, coat pulled tight, hair shorter than I remembered, eyes exactly the same. For a second, neither of us moved. Time folded in on itself. "You look different," I said. "So do you," she replied, smiling. We sat inside, steam rising from our cups, talking like no time had passed and like too much time had passed at the same time. She told me about her work, her travels, the way life hadn't turned out the way she expected, not bad, just different. I told her about mine, about the constant motion, about feeling like something was always just out of reach. At one point, she said quietly, "Do you ever think about the promises we make when we're kids?" I didn't joke this time. "Yeah," I said, "more than I probably should." She met my eyes. "I kept hopping," she admitted. "Not that you'd come back and sweep me off my feet, just that someday we'd find our way to the same place again." The honesty in her voice scared me more than any rejection ever had. We didn't rush anything. We met for walks, for dinners, for conversations that stretched late into the night. We talked about mistakes, about timing, about fear disguised as freedom. One night sitting on her couch, she said, "I don't want to be someone's almost." I nodded, "Neither do I." The question hung there, unasked but loud. "Do you think," she said slowly, "that we missed our chance?" I thought about that 10-year-old boy on the dock, about the seriousness in her eyes, about how some promises don't expire, they just wait. "I think," I said, "we weren't ready to understand what we were promising." She smiled, tears shining but not falling. "That sounds like you." Time tested us after that. Real life always does. Doubts, logistics, fear of ruining something precious. But we kept choosing honesty over comfort, patience over impulse. One evening, years later, we went back to that lake. The dock was older, the boards creaked, the water smelled the same. She stood beside me, hands in her pockets. "Do you remember exactly how you said it?" she asked. I smiled, I joked. She laughed softly, and I hoped. I turned to her then, no joke left in my voice. "I was wrong back then," I said. "I thought growing up would make promises smaller. It makes them heavier." She waited. "When we grow up," I said, "if you still want to, I'd like to keep it." She didn't answer right away. She stepped closer, rested her forehead against my chest. "I've been grown up for a while," she said. "I was just waiting for you." Years later, on a quiet evening, she fell asleep beside me, hand resting over mine. I watched her breathe and thought about that child's promise, careless, innocent, and somehow truer than anything I'd said since. Some promises don't belong to the moment they're made. They belong to the people you become while trying to be worthy of them.